In today's video, I'm going to walk you through the process of using the Kadence Blocks to extend the Blocks editor or the Gutenberg editor in WordPress. So I absolutely love the Kadence Blocks. They do have a free and a pro version of their plugin. For the purpose of this tutorial guide, I'm just going to walk you through the free version of the plugin. But basically, this plugin extends the functionality of the Blocks editor or Gutenberg. It's as simple as installing the plugin to make it work on your WordPress website. So for this tutorial guide, I am going to be showing you how to recreate a similar layout like this on your WordPress website. So this is a template that I found on Pinterest. It has been created by Pixinhue, and I do love her WordPress themes. It's always good to give her a check out. I absolutely love them. But I'm going to be trying to recreate this using the Kadence Blocks and the Gutenberg or the Blocks editor. Okay, so for the purpose of this tutorial guide, we are going to be using a fresh new installation of WordPress, and we are going to be using the 2021 theme. Now to note, this theme does not give you the option to remove the header or the footer or create full width templates. So to get around this, and you might need to get around this if you are using a different theme, then what I recommend is coming to plugins and installing a plugin that is called Full Width Templates. So once you're in your plugins, you're just going to click on Add New, and you're going to type in here Full Width Template. And this is the plugin that we are specifically looking for. So we are going to click Install Now. And then we are going to activate this plugin. So this plugin is just going to allow us to create this full width kind of layout that we have on this template. So the next step is basically to add in the Kadence Blocks plugin. So again, we're in our plugins, we're going to click on Add New. We are then going to search for our Kadence Blocks plugin. And this is the one that we are looking for. And we're going to click Install Now. And we are going to activate this plugin. Once you install and activate the Kadence Blocks, you'll then be brought to this page, which just shows you a list of the Kadence Blocks that are available to you. And in this section, you'll be able to deactivate any of the Kadence Blocks that you won't be using on your WordPress website. Now, if, for example, you ever want to come back to this section, you can do so by coming to Settings here on the left-hand side and coming to Kadence Blocks. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is come to our pages, and we are going to add a new page. Once we're here, we are going to pop in the title of our page. So I'm going to call that template page. And I'm just going to hide this Yoast SEO for now. So before we start looking at the Kadence Blocks and exactly what it gives us, I just want to recap on what I explained last week about the Gutenberg editor and exactly how you can get the most of it and how you can become really confident in building dynamic posts and pages on your WordPress website. So there are three places you need to be familiar with. The first is your settings icon here and your block tab. And this is where you'll style each individual block. So this is really important to know. The next thing is the plus icons here. So these are to add new blocks to your page. So you can either add a block by clicking on this button or adding a block here by clicking on that one at the top. And then the last is the hierarchy navigation, which you will see down at the bottom here once you start to add blocks to your page. So I'm just, for example, going to add a row layout here quickly, and you will see the hierarchy down here at the bottom. And this is really important to be familiar with, because then you can really pinpoint the row or the block that you want to style. So now let's look at the additions that the Kadence Blocks plugin has added to your page. So the first is the Kadence Blocks control tab, which you'll find here on the top right, and you'll see this nice cadence icon. So if we click on it, we can then see our color palette here and our blocks default, and you've also got your editor width as well. So I really love this color palette section. This is really awesome because you can then input the specific web or hex color codes that you are going to use on your WordPress website and on your pages, and that just keeps you on brand. So for example, you can erase them here. Generally, it's set up with the theme colors. So if I want to, I can just refresh this page. And those colors there are the color palette that come from the 2021 theme. Now, if, for example, I don't want to use those colors, I can just toggle this button here and I can add a color. I have a notes document here and I've got all my colors that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to copy those over and paste them in there. And let's do the next one. Okay, so now we have all the colors we're going to be using on our WordPress website installed into our Kadence Blocks control. So the next thing we're going to look at is the block defaults. So in this section, you'll be able to define parameters for a specific block on a global capacity. So for example, you'll be able to define the padding or margins for a block, and each block you add to your page will then have those defined parameters. Again, this is great for keeping on brand and keeping uniformity. Okay, so for example, if we are looking at something, for example, like the row layout, we can make sure they're all center wide or full width. We can also change the gutters, and we can change any kind of padding or margin settings or structure settings as well, and then just click save and close, and then that will change the global settings. One other thing before we carry on to show you is the font family options, which I think is another great thing to keep you on brand. So you can toggle this and then you can select only the specific fonts that you are going to use on your WordPress website. So for this, I'm going to use the Just font, and I'm going to use the Josephine Sands font, and I'm going to click save. Now, when I add a heading or some text or anything like that, those are the only two fonts I'll be able to select to style that kind of, or that block. Now let's look at the blocks that the Kadence Blocks plugin has added to our Gutenberg editor. So if we come to the top left here, we can click on this plus icon and we will see the Kadence Blocks here, and we'll see that Kadence Blocks plugin has added 15 new blocks that we can use. Now you might notice that a few of them are quite similar to the standard WordPress blocks, but the difference is that some of these give the Kadence Blocks gives you more styling options, especially when it comes to your advanced heading and some other your row settings, etc. You've seen the Kadence Blocks additions. I want to teach you a simple way of thinking about your layouts. So if you keep this in mind while you create your layouts, it will be super easy for you to create the dynamic layout that you want to create. So for example, everything in Kadence is a row and then or a container, and within that container you have columns. So your columns can be anything from 1 to 6 columns, and then within your columns you will have content, which is your blocks. So that might be an image, a paragraph, a heading, an icon list, etc. So when you keep that in mind, you'll always know, okay, the first thing I need to do is to add a row and then add columns and then add your modules within your columns. So let's look at our layout and how that's going to work. So for example, we have a row here with one column, and in that we have a heading text. We scroll down and we've got another row. Within that we have 3 columns. Within that we've got heading, text, and a button. Scrolling down again, we've got another row with 2 columns, some images, some heading text, some paragraph text, and a button. Okay, so that, when you think of it in terms of that, it makes it really easy for you to create the dynamic page that you want to create. So before we get started, there's one last thing I want to show you that the Kadence Blocks adds, and that is their design library. So to see their design library, you can see it either here, or if you click on this plus icon and you click row layout, you'll see design library here. So let's have a look. So this is really awesome. Another great thing about the Kadence Blocks, it comes with sections that are already built out. It also comes with starter pack kind of theme pages, and it comes with free wireframe pages as well, which is a new thing that they've recently added to the Kadence Blocks. So let's look at sections to start with. You've got kind of a heading section, 3 columns here, testimonials, contact, and basically what you can do is you can click on any of the sections. So let's do this, contact us. You click on it, it prepares the content, and then it automatically chucks it onto your page and you can start editing it. You can edit the text, you can edit whatever we've got here simply by going to your settings and your block, and you can change whatever on the right hand side here. Okay, so let's dive in and start building out the page using the template as a kind of inspiration. So it's not going to look exactly like this, but I'm just going to get as far as I can and do as much as I can in this tutorial video. So the first thing we can see is this is a row with a heading. So we're going to start off by choosing a block, and that block is going to be a row. So let's choose that row layout, and it is a single column layout. Now it's a single column layout, and it has a background. So we'll come here to our settings, then our block, and what we're going to look for is our background settings, and we are going to select an image. And I've already uploaded my image, so I will select that image. So to make things easier in Gutenberg, there is also this change alignment, so you can make that full width, and then that shows you exactly what you're working with on your page. The next thing we're going to be doing is just looking at, and you can look at all the settings here. You've got padding and margins as well. So that's inside and that's outside. And then we've got our overlay settings. So if, for example, you'd like to add a color over your image, you can do so. You've got border settings, and dividers is a really cool one. I'll show you that in a moment. Text color settings, so you can set the standard color in one setting, and if you've got columns and content in there, then all of the columns and content in there will have specific colors. And you've got your structure settings, which is what we're going to go for here. And I'm just going to make that a height of 600 pixels. And I want to make sure that everything is aligned in the center here. So I'm just going to click on align middle. So that's going to align the content in the middle. And then what I want to show you is this really cool dividers here. So you can have a divider at the top or the bottom. So let's choose one for the bottom, and we'll go for something like that, or like this. I like that. That's quite nice. Okay, and then you've got your divider color as well. So you can make that any color you want. If that's flowing into something else, it's probably quite nice. Otherwise, you can do it on the top as well. And you've got all different settings of how high you want that. And you can toggle to your iPad device or your mobile device to change that on your different devices. I'm going to cancel that because I don't want it. And then what I'm going to do is add in an advanced heading. So we're going to add a block, and we're using the Kadence advanced headings here. And I'm just going to copy this content here, and I'm going to paste that in. Now we know that content should be center aligned. So I'm going to come here and center align the text. And then know that the heading color should be this color, and the heading background should be white. So I'm just going to put in white. There we go. Okay, and we need to go to advanced typography settings, and this is where you can choose your font family. But remember, I'm just going to choose that font because we only have the 2 options because I defined them earlier. So now I can see it's quite wide here. So I'm going to come back to my row layout. I'm going to come to my structure settings, and I'm going to change my content max width. So that's the content within the row, how much space it takes up. So I can do something a bit like that. Okay, so let's have a preview in a new tab. And we can see that is starting to take shape. So let's move on to this next section, which is 3 columns. In the 3 columns, we've got a heading, some text, and we have a button. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a block, and we're going to add a row layout block. Within that, we're going to do 3 columns. We're then going to make that full width. And what we're going to do is we are going to change the background color of our row. So let's come to our background settings, and we can select a background color here. We can choose a color from our predefined colors, or I'm just going to choose this color again, and I'm going to paste that in. So now we have our colors, and we want to make sure everything is aligned in the middle. And we want to come to our structure settings, and again we want to change the content max width, because when we look on our template we can see that the content doesn't span from the left to the right hand side. Okay, so now we're going to pop in the content into our columns. So what we've got is we're going to add a block, and we're going to add an advanced heading, and that advanced heading says 01, and that is center aligned. And obviously we can come here and we can change the heading color and the background colors, etc. Then we are going to add some paragraph text, and I'm just going to copy that from here. Paste that in there, and we are going to center align that, and then we are going to add in a button. Now, if for example you're clicking all over and you can't find the plus icon, you can just come to the end here, press enter, and then you can press the plus icon. So what we're looking for is the Kadence button. So it's an advanced button, and then we're just going to put in learn more. And of course we can style that here on the right hand side. The one other thing we want to look at is within this column we want to give it some padding, and we also want to give it a border on the right hand side. So the first thing is the border. So we're going to put in a 1 pixel border. We're going to make that a black border, and then we are going to put some padding on the right and on the left hand side. Okay, so now that column is done, and let's say for example I'm happy with all the settings there. What I can do is I can simply click on those 3 dots, and I can duplicate that, and then I can drag and drop it into the other column, and I can change this to number 2 and do the same with this. Now what we want to look at is our row layout and just some padding above and below this. So we will come here to our row in our hierarchy. We'll then look at the padding and margin, and I'm going to make that about 100 and 100 here as well. Of course, I have the experience of knowing pixel sizing, but you might have to play around with this pixel sizing to get it right. So let's have a preview now of what our theme is starting to look like, or our page is looking like. So this is our heading and our background, and then we have this here. So again, this needs a bit more styling to get it right, and the spacing here needs to be reduced. I want this to be a crazy long video. I just want to keep it short and sweet for you. So I'm not going to build out each section on the page, but I do want to show you how to create this section, which has 2 columns and an icon list here. So let's go back to our page, and what we're going to do is we're going to add in a row here, and in that row we're going to have 2 columns. And this column here is going to be, the background color is going to be yellow. So let's paste in that hex code here. And in this column, we are going to put an icon list. So if you don't find it here, you can always click Browse All, and then you can find the icon list here. And what I'm going to do is just copy this text. And what you can do is you can choose the number of items you have in your list by going here. So I have 3, and then I can paste in the content and paste in the content there. And so I've pasted in the content. Remember, if you want to delete any of your list items, you can do so here. And if you want to move them around, you can do so by clicking on these little arrows. So there's quite a lot of spacing in this yellow box. So let's look at that. So we go to this section, and what we're going to be looking at is the padding. So let's make the padding at the top 100, the right maybe about 60, bottom 100, and then the left 60. Might even want to increase this to about 160 and that one to 160. Okay, so we've got your list here, and if we click on the icon list, we can go to the left and we can start to change the settings here. So it's the vertical spacing that you might want to change. You want to change the icon alignment to the top, and then you can go into your list styling as well and edit your icons. So you might want to choose a different icon, and the Kadence Blocks comes with 81 different icons for you to choose from, and you can change sizing as well. So there we go. So let's look at adding a block, which is an image. So we are going to select this image from our media library. Okay, and we can see this image is really big, so we might want to reduce the sizing of that image. So we click on it, we can come down here and we can change the sizing. So we can specify the width and the height here in pixels. Alternatively, we can select a percentage here. So I'm going to go with 75%, and then I am going to change the alignment and center align this image. So let's have a preview of what our page is looking like now. And we can see that column in action. We might want to make this a white background and increase padding and add in a heading. But you can see what I mean by how easy it is to create these pages with the Kadence Blocks plugin. And I hope that this tutorial guide and last week's tutorial guide has given you the confidence to dive into using the blocks editor and getting comfortable with creating dynamic pages on your WordPress website.